And tonight, we're also remembering and looking back on the incredible career of longtime TV host Regis Philbin. The world of entertainment is mourning the loss of legendary talk show host and TV personality Regis Philbin. His family issuing a statement saying Philbin passed away of natural causes, adding, "His family and friends are forever grateful for the time we got to spend with him, for his warmth, his legendary sense of humor, and his singular ability to make every day into something worth talking about."
50 years ago, I was a page right here.
Philbin got his start behind the scenes, working as a page for The Tonight Show in the 1950s, then made his way up in show business to become a writer before landing jobs in front of the camera on local talk shows. But it was a national morning show that he co-hosted with Kathy Lee Gifford that made him a household name. The pair reunited on The Today Show, celebrating their work and friendship when Gifford left Today in 2019.
Oh, look at them. Thank you.
He made us laugh with his quick wit and charm, and his talents would eventually cross over into hosting Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which also became a hit. His 60-year career landed him in the Guinness World Records with the most hours on U.S. television. Tonight, tributes are pouring in from fans, friends, and celebrities. Kelly Ripa writing, "He was the ultimate class act." Hoda Kotb tweeting, "Heartbroken. We will miss you, Regis." The president adding, "He was a fantastic person and my friend." And Gifford wrote, "There will never be another." A fixture on the small screen with a big personality. Regis Philbin was 88 years old.